Last warning, get off this road! You're standing on my property. This road belongs to the HOA. Damn it! Then explain why my name is on the deed. Officer, remove him. First, let me see the property deed. Sir, this road is taxed. This road is legally his. I told you, you should have read the deed.
When I pulled into my ranch that morning, I expected peace. Instead, I found 3 bulldozers, a crowd of contractors, and Karen smiling like she had already taken everything my family had spent 40 years building. Karen didn't greet me. She simply pointed at my fence and told the crew to start working. The confidence in her voice made it clear she believed nobody would ever stop her. I walked toward the foreman with one question. Did anyone show you the legal property survey? His expression changed before he even answered. The foreman admitted he was only following HOA instructions. No survey, no county approval, just Karen's word. That's when I knew this story was far from over. Instead of arguing, I unfolded my original property deed on the hood of my truck. Sometimes, one legal document is louder than 100 angry voices. Karen glanced at the deed for less than 2 seconds before pushing it aside. The HOA has already approved this project, she said. That was the first lie the cameras captured. Approved by who? I asked. Karen folded her arms and smiled. She had an answer for every question, except the truth. One worker quietly walked over to me and whispered, "Sir, I don't think we're supposed to be here." That single sentence changed everything. I thanked him, reached into my pocket, and switched on my recorder. From that moment forward, every word became evidence. Karen ordered the bulldozer forward. The engine roared, and decades of family history suddenly stood only a few feet away from being destroyed. I didn't stand in front of the machine. I stood beside the survey marker. Because facts are harder to move than fences. The operator climbed out of the bulldozer and asked to see my paperwork. Karen immediately interrupted before he could read a single page. The more Karen talked, the less confident the workers looked. Even they could tell something wasn't adding up. I called the county survey office and put the phone on speaker. Karen's smile faded before anyone even answered. Sometimes the loudest moment isn't an argument. It's the silence that follows when someone realizes they've been caught. The county surveyor answered on the second ring. After hearing the address, he said one sentence that changed the entire morning. "That road is private property." The workers immediately shut off the bulldozers. Karen, however, wasn't finished. She stepped forward and demanded they keep working anyway. "You work for the HOA today," Karen snapped. The foreman looked at her, then quietly replied, "No ma'am, we work for the law." Karen's confidence disappeared for only a second. Then she pulled out her phone and called someone she thought could still save her. 10 minutes later, 2 sheriff's deputies pulled into my driveway. Karen smiled again, convinced they were about to remove me from my own land. Karen reached the deputies before I could. She spoke quickly, pointed at me, and acted as if the case was already closed. The deputy didn't interrupt her once. He simply listened, then turned around and asked me for one thing. "Do you have the deed?" I handed him the original deed, the county survey, and 30 years of recorded property history. Karen suddenly stopped talking. The deputy studied every page without saying a word. The only sound left was the wind moving through the ranch grass. Then he looked at Karen and asked a question she never expected. "Can you show me the HOA's legal authority to enter this property?" Karen searched through her folder, then another. Every second of silence made the truth harder to hide. Finally, she admitted she didn't have the document with her. The deputy nodded quietly. That answer told him everything. The foreman climbed back into the bulldozer, not to destroy my fence, but to drive every machine off my land. Karen shouted after them, but nobody stopped. For the first time, even the people she hired refused to follow her orders. I thought the nightmare was finally over. I had no idea Karen was about to make the biggest mistake of her entire life. The next morning, I woke up hoping Karen had finally accepted the truth. Instead, I found fresh tire tracks leading straight back to my ranch. She hadn't brought bulldozers this time. She brought surveyors, hoping paperwork could succeed where machines had failed. From my porch, I watched them place new markers across my land. None of them matched the official county survey. I didn't interrupt them. Sometimes the smartest move is letting people finish making their mistake. By noon, Karen proudly announced the new property line. Unfortunately for her, the county GIS map told a completely different story. I quietly took photographs of every misplaced marker. One by one, the evidence kept growing. Karen mistook my silence for surrender. In reality, I was documenting everything she wanted forgotten. That afternoon, my attorney called with unexpected news. Karen had already filed paperwork claiming the road belonged to the HOA. She wasn't just taking my road anymore. She was trying to rewrite the official property records. That's when I realized this was no longer a neighborhood dispute. It had become a fight for the truth, and I wasn't about to lose it. 2 days later, a county investigator arrived unannounced. He wasn't there because of Karen's complaint. He was there because someone had reported a suspicious property survey. Without saying much, the investigator walked straight to the survey markers. Within seconds, he noticed something Karen had completely overlooked. "These coordinates don't match the county database," he said. Karen's confident smile disappeared almost instantly. Karen insisted the survey had been completed by a licensed company. The investigator simply asked for the registration number. The registration number belonged to a company that had shut down 3 years earlier. The silence that followed said more than any argument ever could. By sunset, every temporary survey marker had been removed. Karen watched quietly as months of planning disappeared in a single afternoon. That night, my phone rang from an unknown number. The voice on the other end spoke only one sentence. "Karen has done this before." The caller introduced himself as David Collins, a former HOA board member who had resigned 2 years earlier. He said he had documents Karen never wanted anyone to see. The next morning, David arrived carrying 3 old storage boxes. Inside them was the history Karen had spent years trying to erase. As I opened the first box, I realized this fight had never been about one road. Karen's entire empire had been built on the same lie. The first folder contained HOA meeting minutes from 8 years ago. Every page carried Karen's signature, but several decisions had never been approved by a single homeowner. David pointed to one page and quietly said, "This is where everything started." I leaned closer, already expecting the worst. Years before I bought the ranch, Karen had convinced the board that private roads should be treated as community assets. Nobody questioned her at the time. The proposal never became law, but Karen acted as if it had. Over time, people stopped asking questions and simply believed her. David handed me another folder. Inside were emails showing several board members had privately disagreed with Karen from the very beginning. One email caught my attention immediately. It warned the board that entering private property without permission could expose the HOA to serious legal consequences. Karen had received the warning. She read it. Then she ignored it completely. By sunset, my dining table had become an investigation room. Every document connected to another piece of the puzzle. My attorney smiled for the first time since this started. "Jack," he said, "this case just became much bigger than a property dispute." Karen thought she was protecting the HOA. She had no idea she was about to become the reason the entire board would be investigated. 3 days later, county investigators requested every HOA record from the past 5 years. Karen finally realized this wasn't going away. Homeowners gathered outside the clubhouse, whispering to each other. For years they trusted Karen. Now, everyone wanted answers. The investigators weren't searching for one mistake. They were looking for a pattern. Every file led to another question. Every answer uncovered another missing document. My attorney told me not to celebrate. "Evidence wins cases," he said. "Emotions don't." For the first time, Karen hired her own legal team. Confidence had been replaced by concern. The board members who once supported Karen suddenly stopped returning her calls. One former board member agreed to speak with investigators. His statement confirmed several concerns that had already surfaced. Piece by piece, the timeline came together. The road dispute was only one chapter in a much larger story. I stayed focused on one thing: protecting my property. Everything else would be decided by the evidence. Weeks passed, but the investigation never slowed. If anything, it grew larger with every interview. Several homeowners admitted they had signed HOA forms without fully understanding what they approved. The more people spoke, the clearer the picture became. Communication had failed long before this dispute began. Karen avoided the clubhouse for several days. Rumors spread much faster than official announcements. Then the hearing date finally arrived. Months of preparation would now be tested inside one courtroom. Karen arrived with her attorneys just minutes later. Neither side spoke. The evidence would do that for them. Inside the courtroom, every document was carefully organized. Nothing would be left to memory. The judge reviewed the first property map in complete silence. No one interrupted. Karen watched every page turn. With each document, her confidence seemed to disappear. The hearing had only begun, but one thing was already clear. This case would change the future of the entire HOA. The courtroom fell silent as the judge asked the first question. Who authorized construction on Mr. Morgan's private property? No one answered immediately. Karen stood and claimed every decision had followed HOA procedures. Then my attorney quietly placed the original county survey on the evidence screen. Every property line matched my deed perfectly. Karen's survey didn't match a single official record. The county investigator explained how the coordinates had been altered. The room grew quieter with every sentence. Karen's attorney objected, but the judge allowed the testimony to continue. The evidence was too important to ignore. Then came the photographs. Every survey marker had been documented before, during, and after Karen's crew arrived. The construction foreman testified next. His words matched every recording I had saved from that morning. I asked to see legal approval. The foreman said. I never received it. The courtroom remained completely silent. One by one, every witness confirmed the same timeline. For the first time, the entire story finally made sense. Karen avoided looking at me. She spent the afternoon staring at the evidence spread across the courtroom tables. The judge requested every HOA meeting record connected to the disputed property. Investigators already had them prepared. Meeting minutes revealed repeated warnings from board members. Those warnings had been ignored again and again. David Collins quietly confirmed every document he had provided. His testimony connected years of unanswered questions. My attorney presented one final timeline. Every event fit together with remarkable precision. Karen's legal team asked for a short recess. It was the first time they appeared completely unprepared. Outside the courtroom, reporters gathered as word of the hearing spread throughout the county. Inside, the judge returned with one final request. Bring me the original property deed. I handed it over without hesitation. The judge compared every document one last time. Nobody spoke. Every eye remained fixed on the bench. After several long minutes, the judge closed the final folder. The courtroom seemed to stop breathing. The judge looked up and prepared to announce the decision. Whatever happened next would change both my future and the HOA forever. The judge adjusted his glasses and looked across the courtroom. After reviewing the evidence, he began, "This court finds the plaintiff's property rights were clearly violated." For a brief moment, nobody moved. Even Karen seemed frozen as the courtroom absorbed every word. The HOA had no legal authority to enter or modify Mr. Morgan's property. Every sentence felt heavier than the last. My attorney quietly smiled. Months of preparation had finally led to this single moment. Karen lowered her eyes as the judge continued reading. The confidence she carried for months had completely disappeared. The court ordered every unauthorized marker to remain removed and confirmed the original county survey as the controlling property record. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited for a statement. I simply thanked everyone who chose facts over assumptions. Karen left through a side entrance, avoiding the cameras waiting outside. Within days, the HOA scheduled an emergency board meeting. This time, homeowners filled every seat. Residents weren't shouting anymore. They were asking careful questions and expecting honest answers. Board members acknowledged that better oversight and clearer procedures were needed to rebuild trust. For the first time in months, my phone stayed quiet. No notices, no threats, just peace. Neighbors began stopping by again. This time, they came to listen, not to argue. Together, we repaired the damaged fence exactly where it had always belonged. The new survey markers were installed under county supervision, leaving no room for future confusion. Looking across the ranch, I realized this fight had never been about winning. It was about protecting something my family had earned. The land hadn't changed. Only the people finally understood where the boundaries truly belong. Every challenge left a lesson behind. Mine was simple: keep records, stay calm, and let the facts speak. Karen's decisions became a reminder that authority without accountability never lasts forever. I drove home that evening the same way I had arrived months earlier. The difference was that this time, I knew my family's future was finally secure. The story spread through the county faster than I expected. People weren't talking about the lawsuit anymore. They were talking about accountability. For years, many homeowners believed they had no voice. Now they understood something important. They always had one. The HOA adopted new transparency policies. Every meeting would now be recorded and made available to residents. It wasn't revenge that changed the community. It was the simple decision to follow the rules equally. One afternoon, David stopped by the ranch again. This time, he wasn't carrying evidence boxes, just a fishing rod. For the first time in months, we talked about something other than legal documents. The ranch felt different now, not because the land had changed, but because the uncertainty was finally gone. Standing at the property line, I remembered the morning Karen arrived with bulldozers. It felt like a lifetime ago. Back then, I thought I was fighting for a road. In reality, I was protecting a legacy. Every generation leaves something behind. My grandfather left this land. My job was simply to keep it. The county eventually completed its review. The findings confirmed what the evidence had shown from the very beginning. Facts don't need volume. They only need time. The loudest people in a conflict aren't always right. Sometimes the strongest position is simply the truthful one. Months earlier, I was preparing for a fight. Now I was finally planning for the future. The road remained exactly where it had always been. The difference was that everyone finally respected it. Peace doesn't arrive all at once. It returns one quiet day at a time. Looking back, I wouldn't wish the experience on anyone, but I wouldn't erase it either. Because sometimes challenges reveal exactly what matters most. For me, it was never about proving Karen wrong. It was about protecting what was rightfully mine. And as the sun disappeared beyond the horizon, I realized something simple. Land can be challenged, boundaries can be tested, but the truth always finds its way home.